Thank you for coming on into the live and sharing your essence with me in this eternal moment of which we all share an inextricable and inexorable part. Thank you for doing your part, for coming on in each and every day. We'll do the same without wasting a single second of your time. Bada bing, bada boom, we go into the charts. So BTC getting a rejection off of this 0.65 diagonal pitch fan we've had price in since January. Are we heading down into the 618 and below to sweep those 34K people or not? First and foremost, let's go to see what is going on. Something to do with, we had the dollar yen had a rocket ship. We were talking about it retracing to the 618 region and it bounced off of that. We'll look at the rocket later. Also, to take profit of the bearish trend-based fib level at the 1382 here. So it makes sense for that bounce. So we will go into the liquidity of high block. What is high block capital? Well, people lock that liquidity into the charts to get burned to a crisp by the market maker for not using a stop loss. And we get to see where those crispy characters are. So let's do it now. Why does it log me out these days? Recently it's been logging me out while after one day or so. I don't know what that's about. Okay. All right, on the 1 minute time frame, we dipped into some of the pools here. Let's turn on max liquidity to see what we're used to here in terms of values. They came down into $76 million of 50xers. There's still more to the downside to requite in terms of $2.04 billion in long liquidity. Let's go to the higher time frame pool to see if it is going to abate and head up at some point. So far on the 7-day time frame, just the flash I saw there, it looks like we have more to the downside to the tune of the 36.3 region to sweep those lows, at least on the 7-day. As we start to expand our vision to the monthly, we see that there is some building percolating up in that 37.8, which they left alone. Double-digit pools, $30 billion. So, which one is becoming the dead weight? The overall draw of... It's actually starting to thicken some pools up above 41K now. So I cannot deny that there is shorts building up in the 40K region now, which was previously threadbare from the November 11th comparison here to here. There is much more liquidity starting to form up in that 45K and below region. So they're starting to develop some short liquidity to the upside. If we expand to the 3-month, you can see this as well. There is some liquidity up in that 41.4 region, 25 billion up there, 41.2, 23 billion, 17 billion at 41 even, 25 billion, 40,008, 19 billion at 40,006, and double digits leading all the way to 39.8. So they're starting to develop some pools up above. Granted, you have this pool down at 34K we've been talking about, but they've been developing basically in the same fashion on both sides there. 34K and up at 40K. The ultimate draw though on the 3-month is eventually coming back to stop out some of these longs in profit. Let's go ahead and look at the 6-month. Yes, the draw is there to the downside on the 6-month. We're not going to get into the amounts today. 2-year, you have the now $261 billion down at 23.6. At some point in the halving, you will see possibly this cycle retest the entire low region. As a lot of people have said, there is the liquidity there to suggest that being a reality. Right now, we could be seeing something run for profit Friday. There is some news to be mindful of on forexfactory.com. You can see the red folders. There is some employment change, unemployment news, and then if you go even further, PMI, and then even further, Powell speaking. So we have a bunch of red folders today on the first of the month. Speaking of which, the monthly candle closed, so let's go ahead and take a look at that before we throw on our oscillators. So looking at November, the dollar basically retraced for a month, which is to be expected after 3 months of upside. And looking at Bitcoin, Bitcoin had 3 months of upside. Are we going to see a retracement into these regions, at least to test some order blocks and support at 30K or below? Would make sense within the month to come down slightly and create a wick. Do we wick up first and then come down and then wick back up? What is the play for this new month of December? Last December we ripped to the upside. If you recall, I remember seeing those rocket ships down there and putting out that play to a bunch of the members as we were launching the website as well. If we go to the weekly time frame, here, closing in 3 days time, starting to get wick-wacky on both sides here as they sweep in this range for the last 3 weeks in this ascending channel manner, but ultimately still going to the upside. We are beneath this 786 of 37,750 as it stands currently, and there is some wickage support on these daily time frames here at 38K essentially, where a lot of touches have been reactionary here, so possibly meeting in some resistance on daily time frames here at that 38K. If we go and start to turn on our oscillators at this point, we can start to see where that narrative we were talking about is fatiguing. Link in the description for more. Whoops. And this, scroll down to features and toggle at your leisure. Let's read all the components: trend cloud, baselines, stochastic array, dynamic alert systems, and so on and so forth. Anyway, so we have this daily cloud starting to taper in a manner here. This is the 12-hour. So a lot of these trend clouds starting to point to that 3 o'clock region, suggesting a potential shift is inbound. The one thing we are looking at closely is, what do you know? We talked about this close of the daily candle and getting this flash of the cross down event, and sure enough we got the cross. Cross is locked and loaded. Does it close in the next 3 days with that intact? Do you see some manipulation to these higher highs first and then a rip to the downside? It's no coincidence that all these red folders happen to fall on this day. Just remember, I told you here first about that cross down event similar to here on July, and what happened after that. Same when I was live on September 13th when this went up here with the rockets. I was telling you about that then too. So who knows what's in the cards, but historically back tested and possibly, and also forward tested historically too. So where do we go from here? This cloud tapering on the daily time frame. You have this super trend coming up as we go sideways. We still are ultimately in an uptrend, bullish in nature. Daily time frame slowly but surely heading up here. Money flow RSI at equilibrium. Williams just hanging out in overbought land. 22 ambiguously going sideways. The money flow is going lower after some bearish divergence and this retrace downwards since Tuesday, which we are also seeing with the rocket ships back here. So we're getting that inversion of the cloud on the 12-hour. So let's go ahead down to the 12-hour cloud, still holding in this manner. The interesting inversion of the thinning cloud got a little bit of an order block spike up there on that 12-hour time frame. We were talking about how that did not break beneath the 236 or the cloud, so there you would have taken the lower time frame entry model. You also had money flow disparity between the 12-hour and 6 and 4, I believe. As it stands right now, the 6-hour time frame is now pointed down. Cross down event confirmed on the 6th, which means our analysis from yesterday was correct. It went a little bit higher than our B prediction said, but eventually coming down from here. Do we continue into this pocket or not? That is the question. Does this come into the pocket and below? We do have some pools at 36.8. Whoa. And this should be deleted. Then we also have our 35.2 pool. This is a little bit old. I'm going to just delete it. But ultimately there is a 34K pool to sweep on the higher time frames. So 6-hour time frame holding this cloud, burst up. Now we're coming back down to the cloud. The cloud is thick on the 6-hour. 6-hour stochastic coming down to the 50 level. Money flow, RSI, even Steven levels. MACD potentially crossing down and getting a rejection off the 0 level here. If we go to the 4-hour time frame is resetting in a manner here. Williams starting to come down with the cross down event confirmed. So you have the cross down of the 4 and the 6 and a bearish tone, and possibly breaking beneath these clouds, not getting a huge reaction off of it, hitting it 2 times, showing that it's possibly weakening and coming lower. Looking at the hourly, yesterday the hourly idea, we were seeing this curvature of the hourly, if you recall, and we were saying ABC. I just deleted it, but we were saying a possible rejection off the cloud due to this curvature, and it did. And we're getting essentially suppression by the higher time frames as the Williams hangs out in this near oversold region, but not getting into that deep liquidity grab region. Recently, one axiom that I like to live by is no raid, no trade. If there's no liquidity raid, there is no trade. So make sure you see a bunch of liquidity grabbed before you think about hitting that button on the other side of the trade. So the liquidity grab is your way to stab at profits. So if they were to come up into these regions, as difficult it is to short, this is the criteria for where you enter. So where do we go from here? 15-minute meandering down further, ambiguous at best, as the higher time frames potentially suppress. We have closed out the daily time frame. We are now in the Asian session on December 1st. We just talked about the news folders. Let's go glean into the other assets like Total and Total 3 and see how it's going there. So let's see what Total is about. Technically, I should move this up to here because it went all the way up. So coming back down to the cloud and possibly dropping lower due to this curvature here, eventually paying the piper if we look at a higher time frame like the 3-day on total, also getting that cross down flash. Now, until this closes in 2 days, I was saying we would need one. Yesterday I said 3 more days, so now it's 2 more days until this candle closes. Where does this candle close, and does this get locked in time and space or not? You can front run it, of course, but here it locked in, and then they did a bearish retest, and then that would have been your confirmation because the pressure was already begin. This was locked in, and that would have been the safer bet on the 3-day. So there's no real rush, but yeah, so same with this. You had the cross up, it came back down for the retest, held the baseline, did it a second time, held the baseline, and it was gone. So it's not the end all be all. It might come back up and then take 12 days for it to actually reach this type of momentum to the downside. Looking at total 3, also flashing downwards as people likely exit their trades. We had a daily time frame nuke lock in over here on Saturday, and we've been looking at this rejection of the adaptive and potentially coming lower. This cloud was a 12-hour cloud. The alts having it a little bit more difficult than total in general, as people take their profits and the exchanges lose more credibility as Binance pays their fines and whatnot. So we were talking about this flashpoint at the cloud, and sure enough, getting a rejection down to lower regions. Don't see anything about that changing. Same with the Bitcoin dominance, getting this reaction off the cloud. Dominance has rose and possibly coming to retest some levels as people go into USDT. This has been a little bit harder of a read as people alternate sectors from Bitcoin to altcoins, so they've been playing around with this, but the angle has been true. We were talking about the daily cloud, so we've been batting our head against this daily cloud on the USDT dominance, but if we make this impulsive play up, people are getting knocked into USDT, and this is where we're at with the precipice of a market shift to the other direction, potentially speaking. And we've been giving you the play-by-play for days now, and it's culminating with this FOMC meeting, so we will see how the FOMC plays out. NQ also had a bit of a rip to the downside yesterday with some news plays. Went up into a region and then ripped back down. Overall, have a weekly draw on liquidity here that we could possibly be coming back to after reaching new highs. All right, let's go back and see if you have any questions first, and then we'll wrap it up in a nutshell. What's up, MMA Mark? East Jordan. Hey, I didn't know you were East Jordan. Hey, what's up? There will be some fatalities. Yes, there will. Be very careful. Yes, the 3-day still has that bearish order block at 44 and 48. So, yeah, I understand the order block theory and everything, and that's what this whole kind of thing represents. But there has to be like orders, resting orders of liquidations, and that's kind of why it's interesting how they go sideways, because you can see with high block how they generate liquidity to make it red hot and double-digit billions to grab, and conversely down here how they leave the lows seemingly protected, but what they're doing is generating pools of liquidity to grab. And so yeah, it's basically the more liquidity they build up as these balls of energy that they can grab, it's not likely to go up there if you don't see the liquidity existing there. So I'm aware how the price action structures give these levels that they need to come back to, quote unquote, where reactions will take place, but that doesn't mean it will occur without time to build those pools again. So yeah, long story short, I don't know if there's enough to justify going up there right now with all of this down below. That's why I've been thinking about it, just retracing in this region, possibly spiking up to grab some on that 38k range one more time or something with the manipulation wick, but like coming up to this region to 38.8 ish, maybe 39 even, put in a higher high and then just rip it. I mean, anything's possible with the manipulation stuff they do during FOMC. I've seen some crazy wicks on both sides. So it's hard for me to make a prediction that's going to last through that manipulation. That's why looking at it on a purely in the moment Asian session only basis is what I can give you right now. And basically the 4 and the 6 hour coming to this region and seeing a reaction off the 706 perhaps, and that reaction could be some wild manipulation action going up to some of these regions and then going down to here or something to that effect. I've seen something, it wouldn't surprise me. So if we look up here, we have one hit to the high, here is the second hit to the high, here is the third hit to the high, and Bitcoin likes 4s for whatever reason, so this would be your 4th hit over here if there were ever a manipulation up into this region. You could watch a potential fade. I don't know, it's too far with too many news catalysts for me to be a bit wizard to predict that per se. But overall, that's why we're looking at the 3-day here, because the overall play seems to suggest the end of the run to the upside here with the cross down events. And the last time we had that did play out, and the last time we had it to the upside did play out, and the last time here it did play out. We did have a manipulation here in April to go higher before we went down, but even if you were to have played that, it would have taken you back relatively soon after. All right, let's see if you have anything you want me to look at, and then we will acceleration mode in full throttle. So do you guys have anything you would like me to throw up on the chart? Not literal throw up, but put up. My cat throws up on my carpet sometimes. That's not fun to clean up. What were we looking at before? We were looking at was it Matic? No. We were looking at VeChain. Let's see how VeChain played out. It didn't. Hello? Why did somebody open my door? That's weird. So ultimately we were looking at it coming lower by the looks of it here, and we were expecting some sort of hit up into this gap region, which it did not get. So maybe they're waiting for a catalyst of this news play today. The 12-hour cloud is ambiguously holding here. Also suggestive of coming lower by the angle here at some point. What do you want, cat? My cat literally the definition of clingy. She's literally clinging to me. It's better than having a unruly cat, but it's quite annoying sometimes. Especially when they shed their hair everywhere. You're just like, great. Alright. So yeah, with VeChain we were looking at coming down to this impulse move down here. Technically I should move it over to here, but that is a different impulse. So looking at possibly coming lower if the news plays out. What was the liquidation levels here for VeChain? I remember there was something we were looking at. VeChain. I remember looking at VeChain back in the day when it was like, what was it, 11 cents or something? It was like I took it from 7 to 11 or something like that. That's why I remember, because the number 7-11. But now it's down to 2 cents. So possibly coming up into those pools are still percolating up above, and that is why we still have that region up at 222. So possibly still coming up into these regions, essentially unchanged TA. This is what people in the Momentum Master Discord call an idiot box, because it's just sideways consolidation and trappy in nature. So basically there's that pool up here for VeChain. There's whoops, is that that's not VeChain here. So there's a pool up at 221, but basically the entire range 222 of shorts to take. There is a total of basically $31 million to come up into here in short liquidity. So basically a manipulation up into these regions and then coming down, perhaps. Why would I say come down? Well, the overall narrative here for BTC having some liquidity draw to that 34K region after a manipulation down. You do have that 39K to watch out for. We just talked about that spike up to the fourth hit to the high and how it reacts there with all the news inbound. So do they go down to go up to then go down again? Looks like it's going to be a volatile day though, so trade safe out there. Let's go see if you have anything to request. I'm allergic to cats. My dog is clingy. Dot if there is time. Okay, we'll do dot. Yeah, my cat is very much like a dog. It's like, yeah, she gets lonely when you leave and meows up a storm. She was a rescue cat, but that's the only type of animal that you should raise, really, because there's no reason to pay money for an animal when you can get them for free and help them. But alright, so Dot has this steady cloud reaction here, bouncing off the cloud not once but twice. If we go to the 3-day here, let's see if it's getting the same flashpoint of fatigue. Not just yet. A little bit stronger in action, actually. So we came back into the range over here from July. We've broken that super trend of the bearish nature. There is a weighted moving average that we are banging our head against that we have not reclaimed. Dot took a huge tumble down from their ultimate highs up here back in 2021. Just altcoins have seen better days, that is for sure. And the exchanges have had better days with their credibility being shot. Granted, you know, all financial systems are kind of shady and not the best of character, so the SEC trying to fine Binance is a literal joke. But I mean, not to say Binance isn't shady too. Basically, when humans are involved, there is shadiness, so you have to be careful. Alright, so DOT basically coming up here on the 3-day. The 3-day is stronger than what we saw with VeChain and the overall arc of the narrative for altcoins. So in terms of a positional place to be, it looks like there is more of an order block being hit here on the weekly. You had this hit cross-up event of the baselines on the weekly. If we go to the daily time frame, the daily time frame is getting a blue vector, which is a stopping volume for the last day. So are they going to continue and hit the top of this range? Let's go ahead and put DOT up on the radar here. DOT. Let's look at their actual liquidity. Wow. So they came back and they swept those shorts without hesitation.
Fatality.
And they came back and took out a $3 million character and all their partners in crime there. And it looks like they're building some other shorts to continue possibly, but after retracing into some of these breakout traders here, there's some $1 million characters down at 533. So if we go down in the time frame here to the 12-hour, and then we start to look into the nitty gritty of it all, 533 is down here. There is a pool of 50xers and stuff. This is in this candle. Let's just close this out. Wait, no. So there is like a lot of, if we look over to the right here, you see the liquidation profile, and the length of this bar here is how much the value is. And the orange is 100x, I believe, and the red is 50x. So you have a lot of 50 and 100x longs here. Granted, you have the shorts, but they already tapped into that pool. So it looks like they're retracing into the longs into this candle. Now, if you take a retracement of this candle from wick to wick, you have an equilibrium zone just below that. You have a pocket region. If we go into a lower time frame, we could be retracing back into these candles for some of that 50x, 100x liquidity. 6 hours still pumping to the upside here. If you go this cloud angle, the volume is a bit less, so it has a wonkier cloud but the theory is still the same. The less liquidity, the more wonky the indicators will be indicating, because there's more manipulation and it's easier to move the price action with less money. So beware of that. But if I were to go back to, like, you still see nukes that eventually play out, and then rockets that eventually play out as well. It's just not as exact. There's a little bit more of a drawdown effect. But we did have a nuke lock in at the top there. And the 4 hour. So bullishness still afoot. You had this huge injection of liquidity here, most likely an exchange. So coming down into these pools, I'd watch for a reaction here down at this level. You're getting a cross down event of the hourly, so it's basically going to reset the 4 and the hourly here by the looks of it. So I'd look to see if it has a reaction off the golden pocket region of this impulse here from wick to wick, and see if it has a reaction. It could do a deep retrace. Let's go see what the deep retrace level is at 522 even. What is at 522? It would basically sweep the entirety of this 50x 100x pool. So it does start to taper in liquidity at that deep retrace level, so it is possible it goes all the way down to here, so be mindful of that. This would be your safer bet of a possible long if the market is going to manipulate up into these regions. If it does, the deviation for that would be up in here. Does this 5719 coincide with what's building up here too? 5719, we can't see it, but 5714 is up there. But we're jumping the gun. Basically, as of this moment in time, Asia is taking it possibly to these regions to retest the math. And on a higher time frame, the cloud here on the 4 hour happens to be down there. And that's my analysis for DOT. More bullish than bearish in terms of what the TA looks like, but what the tea leaves for Bitcoin look like is possibly coming down into this region. But we do have that liquidity building up at that 38k. I would not be surprised if we tap up into this region on this monthly time frame over here, 38.9, 38.8. I can foresee what I've seen this happen before, where they spike it up to here and then they're just gonna totally tank it or something like that. So people will think that there's these 40k inbound and then it'll just rip back down at some random, seemingly random level, but it'll be something to do with the liquidity being reached, and then that would be your shift in entry for a swing trade. So they build up the swing, but then they manipulate and then it actually plays out. Alright, well that is my story and I'm sticking to it. I'll only stick by this for now because there's so many folders inbound. I thank you for your time and thank you for coming on into the live and sharing your essence with me in this eternal moment of which we all share an inextricable and inexorable part. Thank you for doing your part, for coming on in each and every day, and we'll do the same, bringing the fire, the accuracy, the precision, all that fun stuff, and we'll catch you